You know, my story didn't start off that special. At first, I was a little kid who was obsessed with dinosaurs. That's nothing unique, I'm sure everyone here knows someone who's like that. You might have even been that way when you were younger. What makes me different is that now I'm a college-aged adult who is still obsessed with dinosaurs. Now, what makes those two different, besides the 16 years of aging, is that when I was little, I only wanted to learn what we knew about dinosaurs. As I got older, that interest expanded. It went from just learning about dinosaurs to learning about the other ancient animals, learning about the things that lived with the dinosaurs, the things that came before them, the things that came after them. It was all fascinating to me. But also, I wanted to learn where this information came from. I wanted to learn paleontology. That's what prompted me at the age of 9 to take a shovel and try to excavate the entire backyard. Sorry, Mom. What makes paleontology so interesting for me is that it's like a puzzle. A puzzle where you have to find the pieces first. And when you do find them, many of them are destroyed. And the ones that are still there are often broken in some way. You'd have to be crazy to want to solve that kind of puzzle. No. You'd have to be motivated to want to solve that kind of puzzle. You would have to be passionate to want to solve that kind of puzzle. And I am. I'm passionate about paleontology. And I am because it's so interesting. The idea of discovery is incredible to me. When you can go out and be the first person to see something in millions of years, be the first thing in millions of years to get to see a fossil. It's an incredible feeling that no one can take from you. And also, this is our only way to know about all these great creatures. Until we invent a time machine. And when we do, sign me up. But until then, the only way we can know about millions of years worth of creatures is through paleontology. Without this, we'd know nothing about all the organisms that came before us. In addition, paleontology is great for putting perspective on your own lives. One of my favorite analogies is if we were to take a clock, a 24-hour clock, and make that the entire history of Earth, shrink the 4.5 billion years to a single day, where midnight is the start of a new day. At 5:30 a.m., we get the first single-celled organisms, the miracle of life. There could have been something earlier. Our oldest fossils date to here. If there's anything before then, we're still missing that piece of the puzzle. And then, from there we go to about 9 o'clock p.m. Over half the day goes by before we get the Cambrian explosion, the vast diversification of multicellular life. Here we have plants, animals, fungi, more than just a simple bacteria. Over half the day goes by before this comes about, though. Over half of our day is gone. Some people even go to bed by this time. But as an overworked college student, I'm not going to sleep anytime soon, so we'll carry on. At about 10:45, we get the first dinosaurs. And then they rule the world for about an hour. Then they go extinct at about 11:40. That leaves just 20 minutes left in the day. 20 minutes after the dinosaurs. Now you're thinking, oh boy, here we come, it's us. But not quite yet. In that 20 minutes, there's a lot that happens before we get here. In fact, human history begins at 11:59. All of civilization lasts a second in the day of Earth. All we are is that. Isn't that amazing? But also, to take this further, think about the length of your own lives with respect to the length of human history. Aren't we just an instant of that? So when you realize that your life, just an instant of an instant in history, it helps you to put perspective on things. Helps you appreciate things a bit more. Another important thing that you can realize with this is the importance of luck. Makes you appreciate what you do have. So much of paleontology comes down to luck. The fact that we have anything to study is lucky in itself. These things have to die at the right time, at the right place, with the right things happening right after they die to bury them. And then once they become a fossil, they can't get destroyed underground. If they're lifted up too early and exposed, they're destroyed by the weather. They have to be just right. So they're discovered by us. And then once we actually have those things, we've learned that all their lives, such a huge role of luck. Genetics, natural selection, there's a huge role of luck in that. All the mutations are random. And then once you have your genes, how those help you is determined by luck. You could have one group that's entirely genetically dominant in one environment, another group that's just kind of subordinate. They're just trying to scrape by. But something could happen to flip that. That's what happened 66 million years ago. The dinosaurs were dominant. They ruled for 150 million years, a little under an hour. And then with a meteorite, they're gone. One moment of bad luck, and the top dogs are extinct, gone forever. And then these little tiny scavengers were able to take over and become the dominant group. These were the mammals. If it wasn't for that lucky instance, we wouldn't be here. We would be small scavengers the size of a shrew trying not to get stepped on by the dinosaurs. It makes you grateful that we're actually here. And I could talk to you all day about this because this is my passion, but I know it's not for everybody. But everyone has something. Everybody has to have a passion of some sort. It's what motivates you. It's something that you love. For some people, they're lucky enough that their passion can become their career, like hopefully mine will. For other people, they're not that lucky, but they can still pursue their passion. They can make it a hobby, something to do after work or on the weekends, whatever the case may be. Everyone needs to have something. But passion doesn't come from nowhere. It has to come from something. Now, passion takes two. You need a person with a deep interest in something and a support network to help that interest grow. In my case, I had a deep interest in dinosaurs. But that would have gone nowhere if I didn't have help. First, it was my parents. They got me books from the library, found documentaries for me to watch, took me to museums when they could, things to help me grow. From there, it went on to my teachers, my professors, people I work with at the museum, and also very importantly, people who funded my scholarships, who made that possible. There are so many different ways that you can help someone along their journey. And importantly, you don't have to be at the end of your journey to help someone along theirs. I'm still learning all of this, but that doesn't mean I can't help someone else by going to teach at a school, teaching people stuff at the museum, whatever it is that can help their interest grow into a passion. Passion, I like to think of it as a fire. The individual with a deep interest has a spark, but without help, it'll just go out and die. But if you have someone there to tend to it, nurture it, help it to grow, it can become a fire. And so I want everyone here, everyone, to find somebody with a spark and help turn it into a roaring fire. Thank you.